Ci senti? Ci senti?
Okay.
Good, okay. Thank you.
So, I thought I would introduce myself because my life was not a normal life. My name is Trevor Warren, and thank you, Massimo and Danielle, for this opportunity. My first degree was in computer science and mathematics back in 1989. I was 24 years old, and I actually got a job using that degree. And I quit after 1 week because it felt like a death, because I had just recently discovered music. So I gave up a lucrative career to study music. My dad thought I was insane, so I took my first music class in 1990 when I was 25, and 30 years later, I got my music degree in 2020. So I was on the 30-year plan, which I do not recommend for anyone, because it's much more efficient to do it in 4 years. In the middle of that 30-year span, I was taking care of my mother in 2010, and I was shopping online on Amazon.com, searching for jazz piano music and Plato's Republic, because I heard great things about the Republic, and Amazon algorithm put jazz and Plato together and said, you might like this, and up popped Andrew Barker's 2 volumes of Greek music, Greek musical writings, and that is how I stumbled onto this topic. And that was the beginning of my odyssey. And last summer, 14 years later, I was finally ready to tell someone about my theories, and I found someone. Thank you, Maria Carla, for taking time out of your Friday to listen and provide feedback. I needed that. And now here I am 1 year later, giving my first presentation ever, so be gentle with me.
Yes.
No, the first thing I want to say is that my pronunciation of Greek is not the best, because my background is in music. So please bear with me. I will talk about the Greek modes and the Enharmonic cave that we live in. This is not the Enharmonic cave. This is an ice cave, but we have to do what this person is doing, climb our way out. So right now I need a volunteer to take the bubble test. It is easy. All you have to do is sing a major pentachord up and down. Da, 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 da. Any pitch, any tempo. Who wants to take the bubble test? No one? If no one volunteers, then I will have to call on our 2 organizers, Massimo and Daniela, and I know you do not want me to do that.
What do you want us to do? To sing?
Sing a major pentachord up and down.
A major pentachord?
Major pentachord up
Like
and down.
you just did.
Any
The
pitch?
same as you?
That's it.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, sing tonic. Down, there's tonic. Now sing tonic, upper neighbor, tonic. The upper neighbor is either a whole tone or a semitone above the tonic.
Yeah.
So in your case, you would sing a whole tone. Da, da, da. Go ahead and sing that, please.
A whole tone. Ba, ba, ba.
Right. Now sing the major pentachord up and down again, please.
Again? The
Yeah.
same?
Yeah.
Ba, 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 ba.
Now sing tonic, upper neighbor, tonic. Again.
Ba, ba, ba.
Now tonic, lower neighbor, tonic.
Low? How low?
And
Semitone?
whatever note you think is right. Either a whole tone or a semitone below the tonic. Your choice.
My choice? Okay, I'll go with a whole tone. Ba, ba, ba.
Sing again.
Ba, ba, ba. One tone.
Okay.
One tone.
For those of you online,
Did I pass the test? Did I pass?
hold up.
Okay.
For those of you online, this is what was sung. Da, 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 da. Good job, you failed the bubble test, but that's a good thing. You are outside the bubble, that's a good thing. I think most of us would have sung da, da, da. For that lower neighbor, that would put us in the bubble, because most of us are children of the bubble. This is a timeline of Western music history. And there is the bubble, otherwise known as the common practice period, where all of our favorite composers live. Corelli, Vivaldi, Bach, Handel, Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Rossini, Schubert, Chopin, Schumann, Mendelssohn. Much of the concertrepertoire comes from the bubble. But here is the problem. It is a modal wasteland, because now we are in this thing called tonality, and only one mode fits in tonality, not two, only one. Hang on. The C mode. The C mode can be sung like a major scale. Da, 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 da. It can also be sung like this. Da, 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 da. Now you sang a G mode. Da, 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 da. That is a G mode. That puts you outside of the bubble. Now in A mode, if it's sung like this, da, 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 da. That pure A mode does not fit in the bubble. We have to change one note to force it into the bubble. Da, 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 da. That note right there, leading tone, down. We have to put the leading tone in the A mode to force it into the bubble. And that is why the leading tone is king in the bubble. Now the dominance of the leading tone has its origins in vocal polyphony, starting around 1300. But over here in Gregorian chant, the leading tone is rare. In our Greek documents, the leading tone is rare. The tritone. Da, 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 tritone, 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 tritone. That interval is always dissonant in the bubble. But the Greeks love the tritone. The septimal third. Da, 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 septimal third. Boom. That interval is typically dissonant in the bubble, not so outside of the bubble. Now, in general, composers know their theory and they notate according to theory in the bubble. We cannot assume that outside of the bubble. And we have lots of examples in our Greek documents over here of notators not always notating according to theory. So the bubble is a huge obstacle for us. This is the first thing we have to deal with. The second thing is the harmonic series. When someone plays a concert C on a musical instrument, let's say this C is the note that we hear, we call it fundamental. But this note can generate all of these other notes to different degrees of intensity, almost all of which we cannot hear. We give these notes harmonic numbers from 1. I have 16. It theoretically goes to infinity, and it is the different degrees of intensity that determines the timbre of the instrument, the tone color, tone quality. What makes a cello sound like a cello and not a trombone? So, the harmonic series is very useful in explaining timbre, but we also use it to explain the octave, this first interval. We say this C vibrates twice as fast as this C. That is the octave. These next two intervals, the fifth and the fourth, that is how we tune lyres. The Greeks call these three lowest intervals consonances because they have a blending quality. C, E, G. There is a major triad right there in nature. So, the harmonic series is very helpful in explaining some things, but it cannot explain everything. There is no C minor triad analogous to the C major triad. There is no C major scale because we cannot get a pure F. So we have this unbalanced, lopsided structure whose low end is very helpful in explaining some things, but very quickly up here and beyond, it becomes very hypothetical. And so the question is, how far up the harmonic series do we want to go to explain musical phenomena? There is the first octave. There is the second octave. I have already spoken of those. There is the third octave. That gives me a major third and a septimal third. Septimal because B flat is the seventh harmonic. The septimal tone is from B flat to C. B flat to C, septimal tone. There is the fourth octave, and now we start to have some problems because this D is very useful. It makes a nice whole tone with C. This B is very useful. It makes a nice semitone with C, but we tend to ignore the F sharp and the A because they are a little bit too low in pitch. The A that we need is in the next octave higher. The F sharp that we need is 2 octaves higher. So already in this fourth octave, we start to have some issues. For my purposes, I only go up to the third octave, and it gives me 2 character notes. The fifth harmonic and the seventh harmonic, which determine 2 of my modes. Now I use numbers like movable do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. I put the numbers to any major scale, wherever it is. Flat means semitone lower. Sharp means semitone higher. So if I say flat 7, in the C scale, it is B flat, but in the G scale, flat 7 is F natural. If I say sharp 4, in the C scale, it is F sharp, but in the F scale, sharp 4 is B natural. A tonic is just a note of orientation, a focal note around which other notes are oriented. It does not have to occur first or last or the most times in a melody, although it often does for those 3 cases. It is a note that we are somehow able to keep in our musical memories. Let us compare C major and C minor. This is the most common form of minor in the bubble, harmonic minor. 4 notes are common. These scales only differ by 2 notes, the E's and the A's. What does that tell us? Major and minor depend on a small subset of notes, not all of the notes. What do we call this scale? I took the E for major and the A flat for minor. What do we call the scale? Major or minor?
Actually, in Italy, there is a name for that. It's the Bellinian scale. Named after Vincenzo Bellini, who very often used this kind of scale in operas.
Major.
Major with the 6-degree flat.
And we borrow the A flat from minor.
So listen to.
But we call it.
Vincenzo Bellini. This is the Bellinian scale.
We call this major.
Major. Still, it's major with a shadow, a nuance.
So it's really the E's.
Yes.
That determine whether we say major or minor. So, 1 note is tonic, C, 1 or 2 character notes, the E's and the A's, and 4 notes are less important. This is the strategy that we want to use when we analyze Greek scales. Look for a tonic, look for 1 or 2 character notes, and the other notes will be less important. And here are the Greek scales. Welcome to the Enharmonic cave, because every scale is enharmonic. These are Aristotle's so-called daemonian scales, which he links with Plato's Republic. Here are the modal names, which are the same as Plato's modes in the Republic. Here's the character for each mode. Now, we will get back to these scales in just a minute, but first, why focus on scales? Why not rhythm and tempo and dynamics? Well, It is the scales that the Greeks talk about. They say a little bit about tessitura, a little bit about rhythm. They do not say anything at all about melodic formulas. Melodic formulas must have an underlying scale to land on. So first you tune your lyre to your underlying scale, and then you can pile on your melodic formulas and rhythm and tempo and 20 other variables. I do not deny any of these 20 other variables. I only deal with a scale, look for a tonic, look for one or two character notes. E star F, what does that mean? Well, supposedly the enharmonic genus started out as a trichord, E, F, A. And then they put this note in here. The fact that note was not there originally tells you that it is less important than the other notes. And according to Aristocles, it is more this double tone gap rather than these little micro intervals that characterizes enharmonic. So I prefer the trichord E, F, A, and a star as a reminder that there can be a note in there. Now, this Mixolydian scale, I could have started the scale on E, just like all the others, but then I would have to put a B flat right there, and I want to avoid flats and sharps as much as I can. So I started it on B. Now, the first thing to notice about these scales is that 4 of them contain octaves. Star to star, E to E, D to D, B to B. That is very helpful because it so happens that in octave scales there are tonic locations that take advantage of acoustical resonance. And this is nothing new. The octoechos of Byzantium does this. The ancient scales of India do this. So I put boxes around these tonic locations that take advantage of acoustical resonance. Here are the 2 rules. Let us go up to the Lydian scale. Star is the bottom of the octave. Is there a note a fourth above the bottom? Well, there will be a note just above that A there, which there is not. So no. Is there a note a fifth above the bottom? Yes. This star, tonic on the bottom, put a box around. E is the bottom of the octave for Dorian. Is there a note a fourth above E? Yes. A, that is a tonic, put a box around it. Is there a note a fifth above E? Yes. B, tonic on the bottom, put a box around that one also. Is there a note a fourth above D? No. No G. Is there a note a fifth above D? Yes. A, tonic on the bottom. Is there a note a fourth above B? Yes. E, that is a tonic. Is there a note a fifth above B? No. No F sharp. So no tonic on the bottom for Mixolydian. This gives us a little head start. Analyzing scales is hard. And we need all of the help that we can get. Now, when I first started doing this back in 2012, I had to start with what I knew, major and minor triads. We have to start somewhere. So let's just ignore the Lydian scale for now. Just focus on E, A, D, and E. Do you see major triads on those tonics? No, because all of these major triads have sharps, and there are no sharps up here. What about minor? Do you see an E minor triad? Well, there is no G here, so no. There is no G here, so no. What about an A minor triad? Yes, Dorian. And a D minor triad? Yes, Phrygian. So we have 2 choices for a minor triad. Now, let us go up to the Lydian scale. A major triad would be right there with a tonic on star, but we are missing the middle element. A minor triad would be there. So no major or minor triads with a tonic on star. Where are major triads? Well, let's just look at the last 2 scales. Do you see major triads in those scales? Yes, FAC is a major triad, but we can narrow it down. Let's just look at the character. Sorrow or joy? Which one goes with major? Go with your gut and not your brain. What does your own experience tell you? Da, 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 da. Joy. Major triad. Eastian. Joy. Fifth harmonic. This E is the fifth harmonic. There is the major triad. C, E, G. What about the seventh harmonic, the septimal third? Now, bubble people have difficulty recognizing the stable septimal third because the typical seventh chord in the bubble is unstable and must resolve. We have to go outside the bubble to recognize the stable septimal third. So we will go to medieval land. This is Gregorian chant. This is the Easter Hallelujah, sung at Mass on Easter Day. And look at this melisma over here. Da-dum. This bottom space is tonic G. Da-da-dum. There's tonic. Da-da-dum, da-dum, dum, dum. There's tonic right there. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Septimal third right there. Pause. Repeat. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Septimal third. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Pause on 5. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-dum. Septimal third. Boom. Notice this very brief pause right after scale degree 5 before going right up to the seventh harmonic, that top note. Dum, da-dum, da-da-dum, septimal third. Boom. Do you hear it? There is an example from the Middle Ages. How about an example from today? That is a really fast rock bass line. The septimal third is very common in rock. It even has its own chord progressions. So there are two examples from outside of the bubble. Where is the septimal third? Phrygian. Da, 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 da. This C is the seventh harmonic. Get underneath that C really close from below. Da, 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 B, C, B, C, da, 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 da. If this B was a B flat, it would not sound the same. Da, 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 B flat, A, da, da. The B flat emphasizes the A. The B emphasizes the C. Da, 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 da. Phrygian. We have more evidence of Phrygian. This is a common diatonic shade that all three of these theorists mentioned. This ratio 8:7, that is the septimal tone between C and D, which makes the septimal third between A and C. So, you put this common diatonic shade for your disjunct tetrachord, B to E, and you put your tonic all the way down here on D. This is where you go for Phrygian. Now, we're not done with Phrygian. We have a lot more work to do with Phrygian, but I do not have time because I would have to talk about the new music and the tonal. That is for another day. For now, just remember septimal third. Da, 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 dum. Boom. Phrygian. And this is where I got stuck for 1 year. Stuck in the Enharmonic cave for 1 year. Can you imagine? And the thing that really bothered me was this Lydian scale. I need a major triad for joy. and this A is too high. Now Andrew Barker says, why don't you just put your major triad right there and double your leading tone? See, this star is now the leading tone, and it is double, a double leading tone. That is bubble thinking. The leading tone is rare in our Greek documents, so I certainly will not double it. No, the major triad must be down there. And the only way I could make this A go down was to make the whole scale chromatic. So, I broke the enharmonic rule. But I was stuck in the cave for 1 year and I did not care anymore. So now, I am very happy. There is my major triad, chromatic Lydian, and I will ignore this enharmonic Lydian scale because it gave me problems. My Lydian will be chromatic. Now, Plato calls Lydian slack. Aristotle calls it relaxed. Well, we have a tense Lydian down here. Let us bring down the slack Lydian to the bottom and compare these two scales. Tense and slack. What does that mean? Think of these words as referring to a string, specifically the tonic string. What will the tonic be for tense Lydian? If the tonic for slack Lydian is F, what happens when we apply tension to that string? The pitch goes up. So the tonic for tense Lydian will be F sharp. We broke the rule again. We are outside the cave right now. Now we have two close lower neighbors below the tonic, okay. But this thing up here is no longer a major triad. F sharp A C. What kind of triad is that? Diminished triad. Tense Lydian. Diminished triad, which is way different than a major triad. Da 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 dum da 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 dum. Slack da 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 dum. Tense da 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 dum. Way different. So, tense and slack are code for tonic because it describes what you're doing with a tonic string. The Greeks do not have a word for tonic. They have code words. What about mixolydian? I need a diminished triad now for sorrow for mixolydian. What is wrong with the mixolydian scale the way I have it? I have a tonic on E, but I do not see an E diminished triad. Where is a diminished triad? On the bottom, B to F. I had the wrong tonic. Tonic on the bottom, B, and it is doubled at the top. Any modern analogies? Major triad, joy, da 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 da. I think most of us can relate to that. Septimal third, frenzy, da 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 da. I think of rock. Is there a more frenzied genre than rock? I do not think so. Diminished triad, sorrow. I could not think of anything for a long time until I thought about the blues. For those of you who do not know the blues feature a flat fifth in a minor context. The blues scale is basically a minor scale, and it tends to go down. Da 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 ba da 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 da. Blues scale. Da 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 da. That note right there. F. Dum. That note, flat 5, has been called the soul of the blues. And of course, traditionally, the blues a genre of sorrow. So, here is an example of a blues-inspired melody. Two mountains, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Bop, bop, minor triad, diminished triad, yeah. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, da-da-da. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum. Do you hear that diminished triad in there? EDF. There is one example. How about Tchaikovsky's Marche Slav, a symphonic tone poem? We take out the E and put in a C sharp. So we are still in a minor context. This is not a blues scale, and this is how it goes. Da, 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 da. Do you hear that diminished triad in there? EDF? I put this example in here because this is what you want to have in your ear when you sing one of our Greek documents. Number 17, which is a lament for the suicide of Ajax. I will sing the tune and not the words. Da 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 da. This E arrow is really an F. I will explain in a minute. Da 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 da. Do you hear the diminished triad right in there? Da 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 da. Diminished triad right there. Da 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 da. Do you hear that diminished triad right in there? Da 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 da. Okay? This E arrow, the editors are expecting the letter delta in the Greek notation, and they do not get it. They get an epsilon, which can be a little bit lower in pitch. And so they think this notator must be trying to indicate the fine-tuning of Aristotle's singing theory. That is bubble thinking. Sometimes there's a much easier, more intuitive way to notate. And if anyone has any questions about this, we can take the notator test at the end. Dorian is left, but Dorian is hard. These two are easier, Aeolian, Locrian, because they are the same as Hypodorian. Hypodorian is an A octave down here. And why is it enharmonic? Because Heraclitus of Pontus says hypo means similar to. Hypodorian is similar to Dorian. And since Aristocles says that the enharmonic genus suits Dorian best, I expect to hear some double tone gaps down here. So, enharmonic. Now we have an octave scale. Let us look for a tonic location that takes advantage of acoustical resonance. Is there a note a fourth above the bottom? No. No D. Is there a note a fifth above the bottom? Yes. E. Tonic on the bottom. Put a box around. Da 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 da. Minor triad. Aeolian. What does Patinus have to say about Aeolian? Do not pursue either the tense or the relaxed Aeolian used, but plow the middle field and be Aeolian in your song. So we have this notion of Aeolian being in the middle between tense and relaxed. Now Aeolian is the same as Eastian, and I have a relaxed Eastian, Aristotle calls up these modes up here relaxed. So I have a relaxed diasteron. I do not have a tense diasteron, but I have a tense Lydian. In my mind, tense means diminished triad. So let us bring down the relaxed diasteron to the bottom and compare these three scales. Does anyone see how aeolian can be in the middle between tense and relaxed? Look at the triads. I will transpose them all to A to make it easier to see. Minor triad between major and diminished. This is how we learned our triads, remember? Da-da major, da-da minor, da-da diminished, da-da minor, da-da major, da-da augmented. Remember? Yeah. Minor triad between major and diminished. This is how I interpret Cratinus. Now here's my summary so far. I added this top scale and the bottom scale. Now this note D here, Phrygian tonic, this note is called Uparapate. That is code for a tonic. Why did I cross out that D in Dorian? Because, according to Aristocles, even though that D was there for other modes, it was not there in early Dorian tunes. The scale stopped there on E, hypate, and beyond hypate, uberpate, is added for Phrygian tonic and Aeolian tonic. This is where you go for Aeolian also. The only difference is, here we are in conjunction with the B flat, and over here we are in disjunction with the B natural. Notice it is the non-Dorian modes that have code words for tonic. Lydian, tense, slap, Phrygian, and Aeolian. Uberpate. I find that very interesting. What about Dorian? Dorian is the hardest, because my little method of finding a tonic and one or two character notes did not work with Dorian. One of the reasons was this traditional heptachord, 2 conjunct and harmonic tetrachords. Well, what if my tonic is down there on E? That is actually a B mode down there because of this flat fifth. This, plus the evidence of our documents, plus the old Hypodorian tones of the first tonal system of Aristocles, that might be a B mode. And so, we have 3 options for Dorian. Tonic on E, A, or B. So, here is my summary. I will finally cross out that pesky enharmonic Lydian scale and bring down the chromatic Lydian. Notice that 2 of these scales are chromatic. These 2 green ones. We are outside the cave right now. Now we are inside the cave. Notice it is only 2 scales that put us in the cave. These 2 red enharmonic scales. Only 2, no more. Now we are outside the cave. And now I will sing from the Delphic hymns to give you an idea of what Dorian can sound like. I call this the high melodic style. It may be associated with Terpander because he is credited with adding this high E, Dorian May. He is also credited with something called the high melodic style, Orpheus. And what we see in the hymns is tonic up here on high E, constantly embellished by its 2 neighbors, and we spend most of our time up here at the top of the scale. This high E is supported by the B and the E below, just like the second octave of the harmonic series. Da, da, dum. Da, da, dum. I call this the high melodic style. This is Lamenius, composer of the second Delphic hymn, sections 4 and 5. I will sing section 5, just the tune, not the words. And I will sing it rather fast to get it in your ear. Da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This is the motive to remember. Sing the neighbors D and F. Da-da, da-da-da, and then tonic E. Dum, da-da-da-da, da-da-da. Remember this word, ambroton, immortal. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-dum. Tritone drop. This tritone drop from paramese down to parapate, Aristocles admires for its beauty of character. Da-dum. That tritone drop characterizes enharmonic Dorian. Da-da-da-da-da. Now we want to put B's in here because we are going right up the scale to our tonic goal, high E, right there. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now the neighbors. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. And now tonic. Da-da-da-da. Once more from here. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The high melodic style. Section 2. Da-da-dum. Normally this E would be an octave higher. Da-da-dum. But now it is an octave lower. Octave displacement. Da-da-dum. Octave displacement adds emphasis. The Greeks like octave displacement. Da-da-dum. Da-da-dum. Same thing, that's an F there. One thing you will find is that these hymns repeat the same material over and over again. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-dum. Harmonic series right there. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. There is that motive again to finish the section, section 2. Now section 3. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There's again. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. There's again. That is an F right there. That is the 4th time we have seen that motive. Again, finishing a section. Section 3 this time. Different composer, Athenius, composer of the first Delphic hymn, maybe 25 years earlier, maybe. Section 3, now G is tonic. Da, 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 da. There's tonic G. Da, 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 da. That motive may fit in here if this is the same word for immortal as before, ambrota. Da-da-da-dum. Uh-oh, there is that tritone drop that Aristocles likes. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Get used to the tritone. The tritone is your friend. And we should all be singing tritone before we go to bed at night. To get used to it. It will not give you nightmares. Trust me. Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-dum, da-da-da-dum. There's again. To see the same motive by two people separated by maybe 25 years, this tells you these motives are out there in the oral tradition. Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. What happened there with that A natural? Da-da-da-da-da-da. What happened there with the A natural? My close-up neighbor finds finally gave me some space, didn't he? I have this close upper neighbor in my face the whole time. Ba-da, ba-da. And now he will give you some space with the A natural. Da 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 da. Now I have space for the A natural. But now he is in my face again with the A flat. Da 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 da. Do you hear that? I call this the space motive at Venice. Limenius has a space motive also. Da 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 da. Same motive, but now we have two syllables, so we need two eighth notes. Da 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 da. Octave displacement. Da 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 da. Now I have space for the F sharp, but now he is in my face again with the F natural. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Boom. Do you hear that? Space motive. Now, I make a digression here to make an important point. This F sharp is notated with a basic sign in the Greek notation, but that basic sign should always be an F natural, always. Basic signs are not supposed to move. This one moves. This basic sign moves by a semitone up to F sharp. This is what Martin West notices on page 84 of our document. The very last sentence on page 84 reads, he, the notator, must be using it, the basic sign, for the chromatic degree above F. That is what the symbol is, F, F, F. That is F sharp. Martin West nails it. He gets it right. A basic sign that moves by a semitone. And we should all meditate on this sentence for 1 year. A basic sign that moves by a semitone. A basic sign that moves by a semitone. Why should we meditate on this? Because this note here is also a basic sign that moves by a semitone, just like the other one moved by a semitone. This is the first Delphican, section 2, the infamous section 2, and all of these B naturals should be B flats because it is a basic sign that moves down by a semitone, just like the other one moved up by a semitone. So we have the wrong note here, B natural, and it creates 3 semitones in a row, D, D flat, C, B natural. And it makes the tune sound strange to us. And we scratch our head and say, how can the Greeks like such a strange tune? And what do we say? We cannot judge. They have different ears. We cannot compare musical cultures across time. Right? That is what we say. But that logic fails if you start out with the wrong note. And we try to compensate for this wrong note by putting bubble harmony underneath it. That is a disservice. Now I can give you more evidence why all of these B naturals should be B flats, but that is for another day. So, with all due respect to the performance yesterday, we are singing the wrong note. And we have to fix this. End of digression. Let us get back to the scales. What justifies the chromatic? How can I just magically change these 2 scales to chromatic? Well, it so happens that these scales come down to us in 2 forms, a description and a notation. The description is just a series of interval sizes. So, for Easton, the description is quarter tone, double tone, tone and a half, tone. Just a series of interval sizes. And then these scales come down to us in notation. This is notation of a tetrachord. these are 4 different descriptions of that tetrachord. We do not know what the sizes of the intervals are in here just by looking at these symbols. It might be this description, or this one, or this one, or this one, or many, many more. This description is enharmonic. These 3 are chromatic. So the notation is flexible. The description is not. And what we have in our scales is this notation and only this description. So it is the notation that allows me to change Aristides' Lydian scale to chromatic because it is flexible. The description is not flexible. So I need Aristides' Lydian scale to be recorded first in notation. Notation first. And this allows for a chromatic Lydian. And then later, somebody else comes along and mistakenly applies the enharmonic description, putting us in the cave. So I need 2 sources, an early notation and a later description. And it so happens we have 2 sources. An Aristoxenean source, this would be the later source, and a daemonian source, this would be the earlier source. Most of Book 1 is Aristoxenean material. Most of Book 2 is ethos theory, how music affects the soul. And what we have in Book 1, in the middle of all of this Aristoxenean material, halfway through chapter 9, we get these daemonian scales thrown in there. Now, these scales are linked with daemon in Book 2, chapter 14, and that allows these 2 scholars to conclude that these scales are probably from Damon or his followers. That is why Martin West calls them daemonian scales. If anyone has any questions about the details of this, we can look at Aristides' text later. The thing to note for now is that these 2 sources have different harmonicoi, harmonic theorists, who have different views of the genre. Now, Aristoxenean harmonicoi only work in the enharmonic genus. We're told that over and over again. Daemonians, we do not have many sources of daemonians. Here are 2 sources, Aristotle's Politics, but this is the important source up here, the Hib Papyrus on music, P-Hib 113, a widely recognized document of daemonian views, in which people call themselves harmonicoi and who use both enharmonic and chromatic music. We can look at this document more in detail later for anyone who wants to. The thing to remember for now is that these daemonians use chromatic music. So here are the 2 sources. Daemonian, Aristoxenean, earlier, later, notation, description, flexible, non-flexible, chromatic or enharmonic, enharmonic only, sunshine, cave. And now, here is my 2-source hypothesis. Sometime after Plato's Republic, a daemonian harmonicos records Plato's scales in Olympian notation, which allows both an enharmonic and a chromatic interpretation. Later, these notated scales come into the hands of an Aristoxenean harmonicos, who then mistakenly applies the enharmonic description to all of the scales, putting us in the cave. And for me, the big question is, why? Why would somebody do this? How can this happen? And I have some possibilities. The harmonicoi before Aristocratus only used the enharmonic genus. Plato's Republic was before Aristocratus. Therefore, the scales in the Republic must be enharmonic. This would be the enthusiastic student of Aristoxus applying ruthless logic. Or, the scales must be enharmonic because the tonoi of the katapyknosis diagrams are enharmonic. So, katapyknosis diagrams are quarter tone grid diagrams, all apparently in the enharmonic. And they have tonoi written on them, a Dorian tonos, a Phrygian tonos, a Lydian tonos. Well, if my Lydian tonos on my diagram is enharmonic, how will I interpret that notated Lydian scale of Aristides? Enharmonic. How about sheer carelessness? If most of Aristides' scales are enharmonic, then maybe the two chromatic scales, Lydian and tense Lydian, were mistakenly interpreted as enharmonic also. How about the enharmonic echo chamber of Aristoxus? The enharmonic is the finest of the genera. It is the only genus of the harmonichord. It is the only genus of the propositions in Book 3 of what we have. This, plus the overwhelming influence of Aristoxus, who wrote more on music by far than anyone else in antiquity, according to Andrew Barker. So, if I'm a student of Aristoxus and I keep reading enharmonic, 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 that is the echo chamber. So maybe I would be more likely to interpret Aristides' scales as enharmonic. How about the ignorant interpreter of the Olympian notation? Someone who is not aware of the flexibility of the notational triplets that represent the picton. The notation is skewed or biased towards the enharmonic by default. This is especially true for the sharp keys, so that anyone more familiar with sharp keys would be more vulnerable to an enharmonic interpretation. Now, whatever the reason, whoever did that and made these two scales enharmonic created all of our problems. And those problems will mushroom and get bigger and bigger. Because we apparently love living in the enharmonic cave. I mean, we love the cave. And Exhibit A in Cave Love is Eratocles. Eratocles. He is rotating intervals from the bottom to the top. He will take B star up to the top, B star. Star C up to the top, star C. C, E, up to the top, C, E. And he will end up with 7 enharmonic octave species. And he is doing this, presumably, to describe the differences between systemata scales. And now, here is Aristoxus complaining. No one else up to now has ever got to grips with this part of the science. That is, describing the differences between scales. Eratocles did attempt an enumeration in just one section of it without demonstration. But we saw previously, ... No one, as we said before, has dealt with any of these matters at all, except that Eratocles, taking one scale, the octave, in one genus, the enharmonic, attempted to enumerate the arrangements of the octave, displaying them by moving the intervals around cyclically, but without demonstration. He singles Eratocles out twice for making the attempt to enumerate, right? Good for him. Good for Eratocles. And now, here is Aristoxus in Book 2. As to the distinctions between scales, some people did not even attempt to enumerate them, devoting their research only to the heptachords, which they called harmoniae, whereas others made the attempt, but by no means achieved a complete enumeration. These being people like the followers of Pythagoras, of Zakynthos, and Agenor of Mytilene. Where does Eratocles belong? With the blues for the greens. The blues did not even attempt to enumerate. The greens made the attempt. Where does he belong? He made the attempt, right? He is a green. Eradicles is a green. And why did not Eradicles achieve a complete enumeration? Because Aristocles tells us that he only focused on the octave and did not consider the fourth or the fifth, which is necessary for a complete enumeration. So, this failure to achieve a complete enumeration, this is a reference to Eradicles. And he only focused on one genus, the Enharmonic. So, Eradicles is a follower of these two people, is he not? And now, here comes Rudolf Westphal, 1883. This is how far back our problems go. 1883, that is 142 years ago. He is looking at this word, heptachords. Heptachords are 7 strings of the guitar or lyre, 7 notes of the guitar or lyre, something like that. He will change heptachords to 7 octachords. Now, 7 is no longer 7 strings or 7 notes. It is 7 species. Why did he do that? 7 octave species. This is Eradicles, right? 7 octave species. See? This is Eradicles. 7 octave species. 7 octochords. 7 octochords. That is Eradicles. 7 octochords. This is Eradicles up here with the blues. Westphal is putting Eradicles up with the blues now. Why is Westphal making Eradicles a blue person? Because Westphal wants to give these 7 octave species modal names, harmoniae, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian. This is Eradicles, generating 7 enharmonic octave species only, but Westphal is giving those species modal names, not Eradicles. This is Westphal's doing, not Eradicles' doing. And this creates, as you can see, the Eradiclean harmoniae fantasy. This is fantasy. We just read the text. Eradicles is clearly a green and not a blue. Now, these are the 7 classic modes in their proper order, with Mixolydian on the top, Dorian in the middle, Hypodorian on the bottom. It is, I have simply abbreviated them here. These are the modes here, abbreviated. It is okay to assign modal names to diatonic octave species. That is okay. Why? Look at the spacing of the tone of disjunction. A to B is the tone of disjunction. It goes up a whole tone, up a whole tone, up a semitone, up a whole tone, up a whole tone, up a semitone. This is the spacing we want for the tone of disjunction. It is not okay to assign modal names to enharmonic octave species. That is not okay. Why? Now, look at the spacing of the tone of disjunction. It goes up a double tone, up a quarter tone, up a quarter tone, up a double tone, up a quarter tone, up a quarter tone. 4 scales have bad spacing, especially Phrygian and Hypophrygian. This is Phrygian right here. The Phrygian octave should be a D to D octave. See here, D to D. That is what Phrygian should be, but over here, it is C to C. That is way off. We cannot do this because we will end up with a schizophrenic Phrygian, where over here, it is a D to D octave, and over here, it is a C to C octave, giving our poor schizophrenic Phrygian two separate personalities. That is no good. So, this is Eradicles, and this is garbage. Now, R.P. Whittington Ingram, Martin West, Andrew Barker, they all accept this garbage. Why? It is because they believe in the Aristotelian systematization fantasy. They want Eradicles over here to take all of these irregular enharmonic scales in our studies and somehow fit each one into a regular enharmonic octave species with a modal name, thanks to Westphal. Now, I have two of Aristotle's scales as chromatic. Here is my 10th splitting up here. Here is my leading scale down here. The description puts us in the cave, and now they want to pretend that Eradicles will clean up these irregular scales. I'm making all of these changes in order to force each one into a regular enharmonic octave species with a modal name, thanks to Westphal. Again, look at the schizophrenic Phrygian. Here is Phrygian right here. The Phrygian octave should be a D to D octave. See here? D to D. That is what Phrygian should be here in Aristides. But now, those Ds are canceled out in order to force our poor schizophrenic Phrygian into a C to C octave over here. That is garbage. What is the result of all this? We start out in sunshine. The two scales put us in the cave, and now we're buried even more in the cave because now every enharmonic octave species has a modal name, thanks to Westphal. But we saw that the Westphal emendation was in fact garbage, along with the schizophrenic Phrygian, makes this entire scenario garbage. There are no Eradiclean modes. There are Eradiclean octave species, but he is not giving them modal names. That is Westphal doing that. Now, I will take these last 3 minutes to talk about Andrew Barker, because he buried us the most in the cave, which is hard for me to say, right? His writings introduced me to all of this material. He created this seminar, making it possible for me to even be here. Nevertheless, it must be said that he buried us the most in the cave, because for him, there is only one source. There is no daemonian source. There is only an Aristoxean harmonicoi source, which makes these scales empiricist scales. Aristoxean harmonicoi are empiricists. They listen to the music out there in the world, and the music goes in their ears and out, down on paper, on the diagrams. They are like human recording machines. The music goes in the ear and out, down on paper, on the diagrams. And all of these scales on diagrams, they are all enharmonic, which implies that the only music to be heard is enharmonic music. This is the first problem with Andrew's interpretation. It implies that the only music out there to be heard is enharmonic music. What about the people in P-hit 113 who say chromatic music makes people cowardly? The author of P-hit 113 knows what diatonic music is. What about Plato's diatonic scale? What about the chromaticism of the new music? So this is the first problem. The second problem, it implies that Aristides had two sets of scales. One daemonian, which he did not give us, and one empiricist. Because when Aristides says in book 2, in the scales that Damon handed down, we can see that blah, blah, blah. He is referring to scales which he did not bother to give us, which is very unlikely. Martin West argues against Andrew Barker on this notion of two sets of scales. The third problem, which Andrew admits is a problem. It implies that Plato did not get his modes from Damon, even though he got his rhythms from Damon. The consensus view is that Plato got both his modes and his rhythms from Damon. So there are three problems with Andrew's interpretation. Now, we are outside the cave in the sunshine. Begone, Westfall. Begone, the Enharmonic cave. Congratulations to all of you for climbing your way out. I hope you enjoyed the journey. We can take the notator test for anyone who wants to, or I can try to answer any questions if I can. Thank you for listening.
Let me my job. So, we all thank Trevor for this very effective presentation, and first thing that came to my mind while listening to him is that, well, now I know that Amazon.com is worth something, because it all started with the research on Amazon.com.
Amazon algorithm.
Yes, Just and Plato. This alone justifies the existence of Jeff Bezos. So, okay, yes, this is the first scientific outcome of this paper. Well, jokes aside, I've always thought that this particular field of studies, which is ancient music theory, is so, at the same time, can be fascinating and repulsive, because it might seem something so esoteric, something so mysterious, that many people might just flinch away. And I remember that Ptolemy, at some point in his treatise, and it was Ptolemy, he says, okay, Medena Clinator for Platos, so please nobody be scared by what I'm going to say, and it was Ptolemy. So if anyone in this room was a little bit scared, don't worry, because this is perfectly normal. And we all thank Trevor for the particularly easygoing way and interactive way and fascinating way in which he presented his theory. I personally think that the first to be happy to listen to you would have been Andrew Barker, because it was one of the most devoted to science persons that I have ever met in my life. He was so ready to discuss, even with people who had different ideas from him, and to him the most important thing was the passion and the intellectual honesty with which everyone carries out his research. So he would have been very happy to listen to you. And, I don't know if there are questions from the audience. I have some remarks. First of all, I wonder why did you feel compelled to look for triads? Triads, either major or minor triads in this case, because, of course, the triads, what you call the bubble, if I understand correctly, is tonal harmony, the tonal way of thinking from the Viennese classicism after the Baroque, because you put the bubble after the 17th century.
The common practice period.
Yes.
And the point about the bubble is you have two big boogeymen of the bubble. The leading tone, which is always there in the bubble, but not there in Greek music. And the tritone is always distant, but the tritone is all over the place. So those two things hold us back.
Yes. On that, I see your point, and I think you're right. The leading tone would be the sensibile for the Italian friends, so something that compares you to the auto tone. Okay, and of course, the presence of the tritone is somehow a consequence of this. And this is the famous diabolos in musica, the devil in music. But if you don't have a living tone, actually the tritone is not scary anymore. I think that those things are linked to each other. What you think?
In bubble, yes.
In bubble, of course, in bubble. But even our need to look for a triad, something to which for something that is physical, because triad is in a way a consequence of the harmonic series, in a way, and our need to justify festive joy and sorrow by means of the triad, isn't it itself a consequence of the bubble?
I don't think you can say that, because in Tali, I asked Iolia, what does that mean? I asked Iolia. You have a G octave that's called I asked Iolia. What does that mean? You have I asked major triads and Aeolian minor triad in the middle. So you have your two tonic spots on the bottom, and on pathetic messe, you have major triads on those spots. And then you have a minor triad in the middle, A. This is modal combination. Before the bubble, you have to study modal combinations, where you have two triads and they can go together like this. This is the bubble. They share two common notes. Major triad, minor triad down here. Or they go together like this and they share no common tones. And so what you see a lot is this in Tall. This is what you have in Ptolemy. G down here, A down here. In Benevention chant is nothing but G modes and A modes going back and forth. So my whole point about introducing the wrong note at the first double hymn, it should be a B flat. You have variable triad. The new music is nothing more than variable thirds and variable sixths. That's all it is. We suffer from our own musical heritage because we have high chromaticism since the Italian madrigals. We are used to seeing 11. Who's the madrigalist who had 11 semitones in a row going all the way up and then down? I can't remember his name. Marenzio. We are used to a high amount of chromaticism, and so in that Delphic hymn, section 2, you see 3 semitones in a row. Well, if that is the new music, what about sections 4 and 7 in the second Delphic hymn? That is the new music too. Do you see 3 semitones in a row? No. You see 2 semitones in a row. the semitones in a row go into your thirds and your sixths. So one of the sources of the new music is the dithyramb. And Aristotle says that the Phrygian mode fits the dithyramb. So you have tonic on upra down there. You have a chromatic middle tetrachord, and you have disjunction and conjunction for your sixth. That's all the new music is. And you can see the new music in other documents, document 39. The new music doesn't just vanish. It was very popular. So if the new music is 3 semitones in a row, you have to answer, why does it vanish? We don't have any of the pieces with 3 semitones in a row consistently. So we are misreading that piece. You have the new music is nothing more than tonic on upra with a chromatic middle tetrachord, and your 2 sixths are either paramese or conjunctrite. That is the new music, and you can see that in document number 79, document 41, document 15. I know these documents by numbers. 41 is the Yale papyrus, 39 is the Oslo papyrus, 15 and 16 are the Vienna fragments, I think they're called. And so you can see the new music, it doesn't just die. Ptolemy's triplet, that is the new music, triplet. You put in your tonic on thetic messe, and you have 2 thirds with a chromatic tetrachord on the top. That is the new music. It is not just, we accept 3 semitones in a row because we are used to it from at least the late 1500s. Wagner made 3 semitones in a row famous, right? The Prelude, Tristan and Isolde, da 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 da. He made that famous. So we see 3 semitones in a row in the first Delta Kim section 2 and think, no problem. But you will not see that in any other document that we have or any sort of plain chant. You don't see that until the 16th century. So if you think that the new music is 3 semitones in a row, then you have to explain sections 4 and 7 of the second Delta Kim. That is also the new music. Tonic on the same location, upra. What was your question?
No, of course, new music doesn't die, and as often happens with revolutions, and it's after a while it becomes the music. It's not new, but it's integrated in the language, and of course, by Thomas' time, this disruptive characteristic, if any, because maybe it was. We have this idea that the new music was a disruption of ancient tastes because our sources are mostly conservative. So I think we should be always careful in depicting music as something really disruptive. Such scholars as Pauline Levin recently, downplayed the actual disruption brought in by new music. If you think that Timotheus of Miletus, and he presents himself as new Zeus. There is a new, my music is new. There is a new Zeus in Olympus. The old era of Kronos is finished, and now there is a new Basileus on Mount Olympus. And then after a few years, he himself said, okay, I am in the league of the ancient poets of the past. When you introduce a revolution, you have to mark differences with reference to your ancestors, to your predecessor. But once your style has been established, you need to find some noble father. This is the destiny, I guess, of every revolution, not only music, but also maybe in politics and in society. But I feel your point about the autonomy, which has to be well spaced, you know, not the message of each tones should be spaced correctly.
Yeah.
Disjunctive. This is what Tony says.
Yes.
This is what you have to distance them by tone. Yes, yes. But anyway, this is I don't want to dwell on this, and I think that maybe it's time to draw some. If there are no further questions from the audience, if you agree, I think this is time to draw some conclusions. So we can again for watching, definitely for watching paper. And this time, Daniela, you join me here. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes. I am among the people scared by these topics. So I put myself in this group because this is something very far from what I usually do, from what I usually study. So, but I would like to thank all of you because this talk is very hard, very specialistic, but everyone gave this paper with a passion, and you communicate this passion, and I think it is something very rare because these topics are topics that really can be very hard, and they can even look very dry. But you all gave this topic, communicated this topic in a very passionate way, and this I think it is very rare, and I'm very happy and to share with you this passion in some way. I admit that for me some of these topics are a little bit hard, but it's fine. So Massimo, maybe you are more into the
No, I just wanted to briefly summarize what we have been doing today, and I think that the choice of the voice as the main topic of our seminar was a good choice after all, because this gave us the opportunity to discuss very not only fascinating, but I think very promising field of studies, because especially because the voice is something so mysterious, something that cannot be seen in its functioning. We will never investigate enough this field. We have seen the historical aspects of vocal expression, not only in the field of music, but in theater with Simone Betta's paper, in medicine with Anna Maria Urso's paper. We have entered the field of singing techniques with Angela Cinalli's paper. And we have the battlefield and the political usages of voice with Natasha Bellet's contribution. So I guess we have started at least scratching the surface of this, because there is so much more to research. For sure, we didn't exhaust. We didn't go into a comprehensive view of the topic, because this couldn't possibly be done in a seminar like ours. But I think that each of us goes home with more suggestions, more curiosities than before. And I think that this is what a seminar should do. Not coming up with something new, but establishing what the current status of research is, and at the same time indicating what fields need further investigation more than others. I'm truly grateful to all of you. First of all, to Daniela, because as I said earlier, but I want to repeat this now, she was the one who found money, and without money, nothing of this would have been possible. But I'm also grateful for all of you for your participation and for being so patient in listening to my discussion texts in the morning, which maybe were too tiring and monotonous. I don't know, I hope not, but there was a risk. And allow me to express, on behalf of Daniela, my heartfelt gratitude to Grazie Maria Signora, whom I invite to join us at the table, because she was our guardian angel all the time, and she was ready to solve all the problems and all the emergencies that always come up when you organize something like this. And she was incredible for her dedication, for her continuous presence. I can't think of any better host than her and her staff, the boys and girls of the MOISA. They were very helpful, and I don't think this seminar would have been the same without you. Please come and join us. Come here, and I just need to say that is why we have a small token of our gratitude.
Sono molto emozionata e vi sono grata per questa esperienza che comunque ha coinvolto me, ha coinvolto i miei collaboratori, l'intera struttura. Credo sia stata un'esperienza ricca da tanti punti di vista. E mi auguro che insomma, tutti siate stati bene in questi giorni e ritorniate nelle vostre sedi e nelle vostre università, ecco, ricchi di tante nuove informazioni, spunti, e quindi insomma un rientro nelle vostre università e arrivederci a Lecce.
This occasion allow us to keep some information and to rework them and in order to start a new topic and new studies. This is important. This is the goal of this moment. So not to say something new, but just to launch some output and to follow them and to improve and to go deep and to carry on our research starting from this output. Thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Facilmente